Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera, where it just happens to be Golden Week. And kind of came up and caught me by surprise, especially the arrangement of the holidays for Golden Week this year. Golden Week is the second largest holiday season in Japan after New Year's, and what it is a combination of a few national holidays which are close together, and then a weekend which usually falls in between. And depending on where the weekend falls, the Golden Week holiday can be rather short or rather long. Most people tend to make it a little bit long by adding some of their vacation days and using, taking a big block of time to go overseas or travel somewhere. And it's kind of okay for them to do that because pretty much everything is closed during the season. And unfortunately, that's kind of an issue, a problem I'm having right now. I've found that my shipping company, the one which I use for shipping camera orders, is closed for Golden Week. I've been trying to get a hold of them to arrange some pickup times, but I keep getting a message saying that they are closed until after the holiday. So for those of you who have ordered cameras from me recently, I can't ship them until I can arrange pickups. So I'll go ahead and get them shipped out as soon as I can, but just be aware that there are going to be some delays due to the Golden Week holiday. Normally it's not so bad, but this year, just the way it's arranged, it's made life a little bit more difficult than usual. Normally I wouldn't complain about Golden Week, few people would, but I don't have the time off for Golden Week that most people have. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the subject of today's video, and this is a really cool camera, one of the best which I have reviewed here on my channel, and kind of the identical grandfather of another camera which I reviewed here a couple of years ago. And this is a black paint Nikon SP rangefinder camera with a 3.5 centimeter f1.8 lens. This is a camera which I've been looking for a long time. A lot of you will probably have seen my video where I reviewed what I called was Nikon's best ever camera, the 2005 limited SP. That's a camera which I had been wanting for a while and which I bought planning to go out and shoot with, but when I opened it up and began looking through the box and all this stuff, I couldn't bring myself to actually use that camera. It was just too beautiful and too new, and there are too few of them around. So rather than go out and shoot with it, I decided just to put it in a nice, dry, safe place and keep it. And I don't know, maybe it will help pay for my daughter's college one of these days. But it was just too nice to use. But I really wanted to use a Nikon SP with a 35mm lens, so I've been kind of on the hunt for one. And finally, a couple of years later, I got one. I saw this one come up in a local site, and the guy was accepting offers, and I was kind of like on the fence whether I should get it or not. And so I gave what I thought was a kind of fair but low ball price, not expecting that it would be accepted, but I guess maybe everyone was out of town for Golden Week or whatever, so my offer was accepted, and here it is. And I was quite happy to receive the camera, but when I opened the box, I found something else which I wasn't expecting, and that was the original lens hood, which goes for the 35mm lens. Now these lens hoods are very rare and they're ungodly expensive. Even a bad one like this with the dents and scratches on it is worth several $100s on the market today. And I was really happy to get this because it's a rare item, and second because it's something which I can actually use to help keep the light out of the lens and cause the light artifacts and flares and things like that. And also because these lens hoods were designed to help prevent damage to the camera. So in those days, just like today, whenever you drop a camera, it's always going to land on the most fragile part, and the fragile part is the lens. And so a good way to prevent excess damage to cameras and lenses was to produce an aluminum or soft metal lens hood which would attach to the front, and when you drop the camera, and since it always lands on the lens hood would absorb the shock and prevent damage to the lens and to the camera. And so if you're using old cameras, especially with the more expensive lenses, always try to get a good quality lens hood, the original one if you can find it, and put it on. Besides doing the stuff that a lens hood is supposed to do, it will really help protect the camera. So this is a 1961 or so I'm not exactly sure by the serial number. I suppose I should go to the trouble of looking it up, but it is one of the later variations with titanium shutter curtains. These were produced for 6 or 7 years, all the way up till the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. That was when the last SP was made. Also when the last S3 was made, what were called the Olympic versions. The Olympic S3 is easy to spot because it's painted black like this camera is. The SP was just a normal chrome-plated camera, but it was fitted with the same newer design 50mm lens, which came on the Olympic model S3. So the Nikon SP, there were a lot of cameras made in the S series. The original S was a post-war camera developed in the 1940s, and back when Nikon was mainly an optical company and less of a camera company. Nikon in the war and pre-war years produced things like optics for periscopes for submarines and rifle sights and bomb sights and pretty much any high-quality military optic. And after the war ended and they were getting into the camera industry, they were able to make a deal with the American occupation forces to secure some of their testing and manufacturing equipment, which was the best in the world at that time. And Nikon's ability to get this equipment allowed them to produce much higher quality optics than were or could be produced by their their competitors in Japan at the time. And Nikon was a big producer of optics for the other camera manufacturers. Nikon and other companies were using their lenses. Aries was using Nikkor glass on some of their twin lens reflex cameras. And Nikon really couldn't keep up with the demand for their optics. And a lot of it, their glass and lenses were sold to other manufacturers and who just used their own name on it. They were really good stuff. But the same attention to detail which Nikon put in their camera lenses also went into their cameras. And the S was a pretty good success for the Nikon company, so then they improved it with the introduction of the S2, and then the S3, and then the S4. And in the midst of these, around the same time that the S3 was being manufactured, they produced the SP, or professional version. And this is the highest quality and most sophisticated rangefinder camera of its day. And I'm not excluding Leica from my comparison here. This is an incredibly well-made piece of machinery, just a wonderful instrument for taking photographs. And if I had my choice between the two best cameras in the world for shooting film with, I would say it would be the Nikon SP or the Leica MP. And those are the two cameras which are just at the top of the mountain. Unfortunately, are both very expensive, and the black paint versions here, this is worth about as much as a new Leica MP, especially with the original lens and the hood. But I kind of like the vintage look, and I just like the feel of these old Nikon cameras. I had an old SP which I had years ago with a 28mm lens, and I gave it to a friend after shooting it with it for a summer, and then when I started to get the film back that I shot with that camera, I really kicked myself for getting rid of it because it was just some of the best photographs I ever took were with that camera, and I really regretted selling it. And then I got the 2005 SP, which I didn't want to use, and now I've finally got this one, which I hope to go out and take some good photographs with. So I'll go ahead and give you a little bit more information about the SP. As I said, it was probably the most sophisticated rangefinder camera of its day. And what made it special was the ability to use everything from a wide-angle 28mm lens, and this was a really wide-angle lens back in those days, all the way up to 135mm lens without adding an accessory viewfinder. And usually anything other than the original 5cm lens on cameras of those days required an accessory finder. When Canon in the 50s finally figured out a kind of rotating system which you could switch between 35mm and 50mm lenses, and then they added selectable frame lines in their Canon 7 and the various assorted frame lines in the Canon P. The good thing about this camera here is it's a lot like the Canon 7 with the ability to select the frame lines, but something which the Canon 7 couldn't do was have a built-in frame line for the 28mm lens. And of course, Leica of those days weren't capable of this yet either. And besides the fact that it has the capability of using all these different focal lengths, the camera also has parallax correction, which when you consider the size of the top of this camera and how sophisticated, it's amazing they were able to fit all this stuff in here. And Nikon itself, didn't appreciate the sophistication of this camera until they tried to remake it. So, of course, a lot of you, I mentioned my 2005 Nikon SP review video. That's, I think, my most viewed video on YouTube, despite the terrible quality. Nikon, when they were producing that camera, that was what they wanted to make when they brought out the Millennium Edition S3. They'd planned to not make the S3 but the SP instead, but when they took an SP apart and started looking at how sophisticated it was, they kind of threw up their hands and said that it couldn't be done. And so they moved to the less sophisticated S3, and finding that they were able to manufacture that camera and do a good job at it, they decided to go ahead and take the extra step and reproduce the SP as well. And I'm kind of glad they did, because that is just the last of the great film cameras, the old fully manual non-electronic cameras. The last really good one, I guess the best of the best. That's why I call it Nikon's best ever film camera. So the professional version with the large variety of frame lines for the various lenses. It was a really wonderful thing for photographers in those days, because in those days when you were switching from, say, 85mm, 135mm lens, where you were using a 35mm or 28mm lens, that meant you had to have the accessory finders for these lenses. And so you had to carry not only the lens, but the finder, and then when you put in the lens, you had to install the finder as well. And the finders are small and easy to lose. Even inside your bag, you can lose them. And I've lost stuff in a bag before and found it years later, thinking that I dropped it in the field or something like that, and found it had been sitting in my bag the entire time. I just didn't search my bag well enough for it. So this system kind of it ended a major source of complication for shooting rangefinder cameras. The reason that this camera comes with an accessory shoe at all is because there were some longer lenses which were made for this camera. You could get a reflex lens in a 1000mm focal length for this camera, absurd as that sounds. And because it was absurd, no one really bought them, so you don't really see them today. But the main purpose for this was the addition of an accessory light meter, which slides on the accessory shoe, and which engages the shutter speed ring, which allows for a coupled light meter reading system. The Nikon S, when it came out, was basically a combination of two designs. First was the front focusing design, which they borrowed from the Contax company, and you can actually fit Contax lenses on this camera and use them. The wide-angle lenses work perfectly. A standard or faster lenses, there's a little bit of a difference in the spacing between the lens and the film plane, which has to be adjusted with shims, but they can be used with a little bit of modification to the lens, not to the camera. And the back half is basically a focal plane shutter camera, which is simpler than the Contax design, easier to manufacture and easier to tune. And the combination of these two systems brought out the camera which we see now. Just a really wonderful camera. The problem with it that the SP had was that when it was being produced, just as it was entering production, Nikon was already at work on their Nikon F SLR camera. The Nikon F is basically just this camera, which has been modified with a mirror box and a pentaprism focusing system. The rest of the camera mechanism was so well refined, so rugged and reliable, and so precise that Nikon didn't see any need to improve upon it. So I really love these cameras as shooters. They're compact, they're smooth and quiet. I like this one's. They're a little bit snappy because of the titanium shutter curtains in them, compared to the cameras which have the cloth curtains in them. So, but it's still much quieter than the F SLR camera. Another good thing about these cameras, which gives them an advantage over the F, is the fact that they don't need retrofocused lenses. In order to mount a lens with a mirror box in between, you need a retrofocus design for a number of the shorter focal length lenses, and what that means is it kind of reverses the image onto the film rather than projecting it directly, and that increases the margin of error when it comes to manufacturing lenses and the precision in the image and the mounting of the lens. Most people would never notice it, but some people who are really picky about things, that can be a selling point, whether it actually affects their photography or not. Other things very similar to the F, and that the film loading system is the same way. You just pull off the bottom cover here. Most people put it under their arm and hold it in their armpit when they're loading the film. That way you don't drop it on the ground and step on it. You just drop the film cartridge in this side here, pull the film across the opening, feed it into the take-up spool, and wind and fire the shutter until the film is being pulled tight and the holes in the top and the bottom of the film are being engaged by these teeth on the take-up spool. When you put the back cover on, make sure that it's locked up all the way. Push it up, kind of squeeze it as you're tightening. That way you have it on. It's quite easy, I know this from experience, not to put the film back on properly, and at the least, you'll get a light leak on the opposite side of the latch, and at the worst, the film back will just drop off when you least expect it and expose the film in the camera. Removing and replacing the lenses is simple. Just pop it like so and put it back on. I really love this lens, the 35mm f1.8 lens. This is the best 35mm lens which Nikon made. And the design is such that Fuji copied it, roughly, not an exact copy, but they copied the basic design in their X series lenses, which you can find in the X Pro and other X cameras. I really love the performance of that lens. I had an X Pro, which I took on a holiday to Europe, and I got some really beautiful photographs out of that camera and that lens. And if I have to recommend a really good digital camera for someone who likes film, I have to say, like the Fuji X series. I have a what is it? A 100T, which I really like, and I used to have the X Pro, the original X Pro, which was a really lovely camera. But I'm still more of a film guy myself, so if I have a choice between carrying this one here and my X100T, I'll probably take this camera every time. The X100T is mainly something I guess my daughter can play with nowadays because I don't shoot it so much myself. Why would someone want a camera like this? First, the cameras like this, they have a lot of character. I love the look, I love the feel, I love the sound of them. I love the quality of the photographs they can take. And also, in a day, like nowadays when, things are getting more expensive all the time and, we have inflation in just about everything, there are a few things which you can buy nowadays that you don't lose money on. But a camera like this is a good kind of toy to have because at the worst, it's just going to maintain its value. And at the best, it may go up in value many times over what you paid for it. It wasn't long ago that these cameras, are selling for about a third of what they are selling now. And I had a couple of black paint Leica M cameras, M4s. I had an MOT and another original black paint M4. And I think that the more expensive the one I paid 200,000 yen for, or about $2,000. And I can't even find one for 3 times that price nowadays. They've gone up in value much more than the rate of inflation, which is kind of annoying for someone like me who likes to actually shoot with them rather than collect onto them, hold on. And maybe I'm kind of a hypocrite because I'm holding onto my 2005 SP. But if you want something which is you can use to take photographs, something which retains its value for a long time, and something which is I guess represents the height of the technology at a particular period of time, something like this it just has a lot of appeal. It feels good, it looks good, it works good, and I guess that's the best I can say about it. I don't think I'm going to be selling this anytime soon, though if someone had a Leica MP if they were willing to trade. Or maybe I'm joking there, maybe I prefer this over an MP, but this is one I plan to go out and shoot with. And I'm really looking forward to putting my 28mm lens on this and going out and shooting the back alleys around Tokyo and seeing what kind of stuff I can get. I plan to share some of these photos one of these days. I only have like one video in my channel where I've actually shown some of the photos which I've taken. I should be doing more. Last year my film scanner broke and I haven't gotten about to replacing it, and my lab, which I used to trust to do my film, the guy sold the building and moved out of town, and so that's closed. And so yeah, I've just got to go and take all this stuff and get it developed and scanned somewhere else. I used to develop film at home in my bathroom or in my kitchen, but you know, developing film in the kitchen is something you can get away with easily after you get married, so that's something which I can't do anymore. The smell of developing chemicals isn't very pleasant, and the effects they have on the plumbing isn't very wonderful. So yeah, I have to go and get all that stuff taken in, and when I get it developed and scanned, I'll go ahead and make another video and show you some of the photos which I've taken with this and some of the other cameras which I've reviewed on this channel. But anyway, I plan to be adding more videos as I get more cameras and more time to make these videos. I'm also working on another video for my cycling channel. I'm trying to make some videos for people who are interested in what it's like to wander around Tokyo and, you know, the back alleys and different places and things like that. And I think a bicycle is a good way to see these places. So I'll add a link to my cycling channel in the description below the video, and of course I'll add links to my online stores down there. And if you're interested in getting a vintage film camera, rangefinder camera, SLR camera, please check out my stores. I'm adding more stuff as I get it, and this month is quite busy, but over next month in July I should be adding a whole bunch of new stuff to it, so please check it out. And if you like the video, please like it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.